Hey, what's up, guys? Come back to TK. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Tabatha Ricci and Loopy Godinez. So let's get started. If we talk about the records of these two fighters, starting with Ricci. So Ricci has just 10 MMA fights and she has won 9 of her 10 fights, lost just one. If we talk about her 9 wins, she has just one win via knockout, 3 via submission, and another 5 via decision. So she does not have a lot of power in her strikes. We can see this from her record, and most of her fights have gone the decision. If we talk about her one loss, that was a knockout loss which came in her very first UFC fight. Now let's talk about Loopy's record. So Loopy has 14 fights, similar number of fights between these two. If we talk about the wins, she has won 11 of her 14 fights and lost 3. Talking about her wins, she also has just one win via knockout, 2 via submission, and 8 via decision. So both these fighters don't really finish fights. Their fights usually go the distance. And if we talk about the 3 losses of Loopy's record, all 3 of them have been via decision. She has never been finished. Now let's take a look at the physical and career statistics for both these fighters. Starting with the height, it is 5'1" for Ricci and it is 5'2" for Godinez. So Godinez will have a slight 1-inch height advantage. Weight will be even at 115 for both these fighters unless somebody misses weight. If we talk about the reach, it is 61 inches for Ricci and also 61 inches for Godinez. And both these fighters are orthodox style fighters. If we talk about the date of birth, both of them are pretty young. Ricci is younger by about 1.5 years and Godinez is older, but I do not think age will play a factor in this fight. Both these fighters are really young. Now let's take a look at the career statistics, starting with the strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute. On average, this is 4.12 for Ricci and it is 4.03 for Godinez. So a slight advantage here goes to Ricci. She is able to land a slightly higher number of strikes on her opponents per minute compared to Godinez. Now let's talk about the striking accuracy, which is 37% for Ricci and it is 50% for Godinez. So Godinez will have a huge advantage here. She is more accurate with her strikes. Next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute. Now this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute, and this signifies the number of strikes that you absorb from your opponents per minute on average. This is 4.45 for Ricci and it is 3.52 for Godinez. In this case, the fighter with the lower number has an advantage because they are getting hit lesser. So here the advantage goes to Godinez. Striking defense is 61% for Ricci, which is good, and it is 62% for Godinez. Both these fighters are pretty close, but a slight advantage goes to Godinez. Overall, in the striking department, except the first metric that we have seen, which is the strikes landed per minute, all the rest, 3 of them favor Loopy Godinez, and I think she is the better striker overall. Now let's talk about the wrestling, grappling, and BJJ statistic, starting with the takedown average, which is 4.23 for Ricci and it is 3.82 for Godinez. So here the advantage goes to Ricci. She is getting a lot more takedowns in her fights. If we talk about the takedown accuracy, it is 48% for Ricci and 47% for Godinez. Both these fighters are very close, but a very slight advantage goes to Ricci. Takedown defense is 66% for Ricci, which is good, and it is 82% for Godinez, which is even better. So her takedown defense is really good. Talking about the submission average, it is zero point 0.2 for Ricci and it is 1.3, almost 6 times that number for Godinez. So Godinez is the better BJJ fighter and she has better submissions than Tabatha Ricci. Even if Tabatha takes her down, she is under a constant threat of getting subbed by Godinez. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for both these fighters. Starting with Ricci, 71% of all her strikes are from the standing position, 4% in the clinch, and 25% on the ground. Now let's compare it with Godinez. 84% of all the strikes that Godinez throws are from the standing position, 8% in the clinch, and another 8% on the ground. So Godinez pretty much likes to keep it standing, whereas Tabatha can fight on the ground. She has good ground and pound. Both these fighters don't really fight in the clinch much. And if we talk about the significant strikes by target, starting with Ricci, 55% of all her strikes are to the head, 16% to the body, and a significant 29% to the leg. Now let's compare it with Godinez. 76% of all her strikes are to the head, 17% to the body, and just 7% to the leg. So Ricci clearly throws a lot more leg kicks compared to Godinez, and Godinez is pretty much headhunting all the time in the standing position. She does not like to fight in the clinch or on the ground, and both these fighters go to the body pretty much even number of times, 16% versus 17%. The difference is in the leg kicks. Ricci likes to use a lot more leg kicks compared to Godinez. Now let's take a look at some of the previous performances of these two fighters, starting with Ricci. So Ricci in her last fight beat Gillian Robertson. This fight happened in June of this year, so she is not taking a lot of time off and coming back to fight once again. And she won the fight via unanimous decision. It was a 3-round fight. If we talk about the number of significant strikes, Ricci landed 100 strikes compared to 76. My bad. Yeah, Ricci landed 100 strikes compared to 76 of Gillian Robertson, and Ricci also got 3 takedowns compared to just one of Gillian Robertson. If we talk about her fight before that, she beat Jessica Penne, and this fight happened in March of this year. It was a second round finish via armbar for Tabatha Ricci. If we talk about the stats, Tabatha got 4 takedowns in this fight. And if we talk about the fight before that, she beat Polyana Viana via unanimous decision. This fight happened in May of last year. And again, if you look at the takedowns, she got 5 takedowns on Polyana Viana. So Tabatha Ricci uses wrestling in her game. And we have seen she has gotten quite a few takedowns in her last few fights. If we talk about the fight before that against Maria Oliveira, she won the fight via unanimous decision. And in this fight also, she got 5 takedowns. And before that was her UFC debut where she fought Mano Fiorot, and in this fight she was KO'd in the second round by Mano, and Mano was able to get a takedown and she was really ahead on the strikes. Mano Fiorot is really a solid fighter in this division. I think she can be the next champion. However, she is getting a bit older now, and this is my main concern. Now coming back to Ricci, she is a solid fighter and she uses takedowns a lot in her game. However, keep in mind that the takedown defense of Godinez is 84%, which is, I think, highest amongst all the fighters that Tabatha Ricci has faced till now. Now let's take a look at some of the previous fights of Godinez. Godinez in her last fight beat Alice Reed, and this fight happened in September of this year, so she is not taking any time off and coming back to fight after about 2 months. And she finished the fight in the second round via rear naked choke. If we look at the stats, Loopy was way ahead in the strikes, and she also got 5 takedowns and 6 submission attempts. Really crafty work by Godinez. If we talk about the fight before that, she beat Emily Ducote, and this fight happened in May of this year, and it was a unanimous decision win for Godinez. Looking at the strikes, again Godinez landed some significant amounts of more strikes, and she also got 1 takedown. If we talk about the fight before that, Loopy beat Cynthia Calvillo, and in this fight she won via split decision. But if you look at the strikes, they are in favor of Cynthia, and Cynthia also got 1 takedown. So this was a robbery in a lot of people's eyes, but the judges gave it to Godinez via split decision. If we talk about the fight before that, Loopy fought Angela Hill and she lost the fight via unanimous decision. This fight happened in August of last year, so she has been really active in the past 1.5 year, and this will be her 4th fight in 2023. If we talk about this fight, Loopy was ahead on the strikes and both of these fighters got 1 takedown. However, the judges gave this fight to Angela Hill. If we talk about her previous fight, she beat Ariane Karnilowski, and in this fight she won via unanimous decision and got 8 number of takedowns, and in the strikes also she was ahead by a huge factor. Before this fight, she beat Loma, and in this fight, also she got 5 takedowns. So both these fighters use takedowns a lot in her game. However, the takedown defense of Godinez is really high. I don't think Tabatha Ricci is taking her down that easily. If we talk about the fight before that, was the fight with Luana Carolina, where she lost by unanimous decision. And in this fight, Luana was landing more strikes. However, Godinez got 2 takedowns on her. So both these fighters are solid fighters. Nobody can really finish fights. They don't have a lot of knockouts. However, the striking of Godinez is better than the striking of Tabatha Ricci, and in the wrestling department, I think Godinez has a higher submission average and she has a great takedown defense. I think for all these reasons, I am picking Loopy Godinez to win this fight. I think she will stuff the takedowns of Tabatha Ricci and she'll outstrike her on the feet to win a unanimous decision. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.